Okay, so I'm a biologist and I'm interested in species. And this is the particular one that I'm interested in today, Homo sapiens, which hopefully you're all familiar with. But there's an extraordinary arrogance about this. The word sapiens, as I'm sure you know, means wise. And I think for many of us, that's a much more exact description of how we live our lives, how our minds are so busy, we're rushing around, frenetic activity. The mind is buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. The monkey mind, we call it. And so what I'm going to talk about today is a short mind calming exercise that I've been doing for about 3 years at Queen's. And I gave a talk at the CTL exactly 2 years ago. So we're going to do one of those things. How many people were here at the CTL 2 years ago? And keep your hand up if you actually remember the talk I gave or anything about it. Oh, that's not bad. Okay. So I've got a lot more data this time. Obviously, I can only just give you a very quick overview of it. But for those who weren't here, I'm also going to give a demonstration. But the key idea here is calming the mind can help students be more engaged with the material in whatever topic it might be. So I'm going to give a demo. This is exactly what I would do. I would turn down the lights, if I can see. I think they're going to drop in a second. And I would take a chair, having introduced the topic of whatever lecture. I'm a biologist, so I would typically teach courses in ecology. I teach at 3 different levels. A second year course with 340 students, a third year course with about 70, and a fourth year course with about 15. And essentially everything I'm going to talk about today is the same in terms of across those courses. So I would introduce the topic, give myself a few minutes so that people can come in late and move around, and so that we have potential for some calm. And then I would sit down and invite people, and I would do this in every single session, every single one. I'd invite people. It's a voluntary exercise. You don't have to do it if you don't wish to. But if you'd like to, or at least if you don't wish to participate, at least don't disturb your neighbors. And if you'd like to, I'd invite you to put your feet firmly on the ground. Maybe put your... Hey, I've got some participation here. This is great. Put your feet firmly on the ground. Maybe plant your hands on your knees. Keep your back away from the back of the chair. And if you wish, close your eyes, or you might like to just gaze in front at a soft space. I like to close my eyes. And just concentrate on your breathing. And of course, the exercise here is just to exert some control over that monkey mind, that frenetic mind. So the idea is that we're going to concentrate on our breathing, and you're going to get distracted. And the act of mind calming is bringing the mind back to that focus of the breathing. Being aware of that gives you some potential for controlling the mind to some degree. So we're going to take 5 breaths in and then 5 out. Sorry, we're going to breathe in 5 times, breathe out 5 times, and just see how that feels. And of course, your mind is going to get distracted, and you pull it back by counting. Focusing on the breathing. And as we come to the end of this little exercise, you might like to wriggle your fingers and toes and stretch your muscles and gently open your eyes and engage with the environment here. Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is, what I did was assess. So I should have said, in primary and secondary school, in Canada, in the UK, and across Europe, mindfulness or mind calming techniques are becoming more and more popular. In tertiary, in other words, in college and universities, it's relatively rare. Where there is activity, it tends to be extracurricular. So there are mindfulness courses at McGill, for example, and there are various examples of things. But actually doing it within class is very rare. And certainly, there's a great scarcity of quantitative data as to its effects. There is qualitative data, all right. So here's my attempt to show you some quantitative data. So what I would have done was exactly as I've described, and then in this particular data I'm going to show you, we sampled, this is the ecology course, third year course, about 70 students. We would sample, or I did an anonymous survey using SurveyMonkey halfway through the course and at the end of the course. And I tried to be very balanced in the kinds of questions that I would ask the students in those surveys. So here's two examples. The top one, oh, we can't quite see it there, but basically it says, this exercise is inappropriate and should be stopped immediately. And I've used the classic USAT arrangement here where we've got strongly agree on the left, strongly disagree on the right. And as you can see, about 95% of people either disagreed or strongly disagreed with that statement halfway through the course. The blue represents the midway sampling, the orange, the sampling at the end. Here's another one, right at the end of the survey. Exercises are useful to some students, these mind-calming exercises, but are not course-related material and therefore are inappropriate within class time. Again, as you can see, 80 or 85% disagreed or strongly disagreed with that statement. But you can see that I was pushing the balance here. I was trying not to be biased in the survey. On the other side, we've lost the top again, which is unfortunate. Actually, I have the wording here. So the top one reads, the mind calming exercise is enjoyable and relaxing. And as you can see, about 90% tend to agree with that. I look forward to the mind calming exercise. Again, about 90% agreed with that midway and at the end of the course. So clearly some very positive reactions. I feel it enhances deep learning. Very carefully chosen words there. I feel it enhances deep learning. And as you can see, I think it's 75 or 80% either agree or strongly disagree. This exercise has introduced me to a valuable perspective that is useful outside the course in learning how to achieve calm and balance. And again, about 80% agreeing, either midway or at the end. So clearly there are some very positive aspects of this, and I should have pointed out, in surveys you've got to be very careful what proportion are responding. So in this particular group there's about 70 students, and for the final survey I think it was 29 responded, and for the 29 for the final and 30 for the midway. So about half the class, a little bit less than half of the total enrollment, but actually that's 2/3 of the students who are present in the classroom on a regular basis. And we know that because we have other ways of determining it through random pop-up quizzes and that kind of thing. So in other words, this is fairly representative of at least 2/3 of the class that are regularly attending. So that's all from the student perception point of view. And the data that I certainly didn't show last time is the following. So these are my USAT scores for this course. There's 10 data points back from 2005 when I started, or just after I started at Queen's. There were some teething problems earlier on. It's not unusual. But you can see a pretty steady pattern. And then the last 2 years, 2016 and 2017. So 2016, I was the only one teaching the course. We did not do the mind calming. 2017, we did exactly the same course. Again, I was the only one teaching it. Sometimes it's team taught. And I did do the mind calming. And I think what you can see there is that there's substantial evidence. I assume that most of you are aware of the USAT statements, but these are some of the key ones that are in there. It's an excellent course, is the S1, an effective teacher, S2. These are tend to be two of the criteria that are very indicative of student enjoyment of a course, not necessarily student learning in a course. That's a different thing, obviously. But you can see that there's a change happening. And at least it's supportive of the idea that maybe there was better teaching or more effective teaching going on during that course. So I'll just leave you, you're always stuck for time, and Andy is always waiting there in the corner. I'll just wrap it up, as it were, by showing a couple of quotes. So the first one is very representative. All of the students, remember now, I should have said, or maybe it wasn't quite clear, all the data I've shown you is for that third year course, but I have exactly, or very, very similar data for a huge 320 student second year course and for a 14 student seminar course in fourth year. Very, very similar. And this quote on the top here is very representative of how students respond in those surveys. It's an exercise that allows me to take a moment to breathe deeply and take my mind away from stressors, whatever they might be, entering into the class then with a fresh mind. This one is a bit more deep, but essentially it suggests that it makes the students more aware of the process of learning that they're doing. Metacognition is the phrase that educational specialists would use. And it's interesting that students would come out with this in free comment. So I have a paper which is in press on these data, and I'd be very happy to pass it on to you. It seems like it's going to take a while to actually come out, but if anybody wants it, I'm in biology and I'd be happy to pass it on. Thank you.